Owen Johnson, CupScene.com. You've been critical of the new short track package this year. Has it changed the racing at all from your perspective? And do you expect any bigger changes here at the shortest track yet for the package?
I didn't think we could make it worse, but by golly, we did. For me, anyways, like maybe it's just because we don't have it quite figured out like others do, but I cannot follow anybody in front of me whatsoever. It doesn't matter if I'm in the bottom lane, the middle lane, the top lane. If there is a car in front of me, I am terrible, really bad. I will say the only positive to it is that you can slide the back of the car around a little bit more and not crash. But the front ends are just ungodly, not working.
What would you like to see NASCAR do in terms of development direction?
It doesn't matter because they're not going to do it, so it don't matter. I'm not going to paint myself in a bad spot to get in trouble.
So that I can see you and make sure we get a wireless mic to you. We're going to start off with Bob, please.
Bob Hawkers, Fox Sports. You're 13th in points. Are you even looking at where you are in points now, or are you just looking for maybe more consistency?
I think anytime you have good runs, you kind of know that the points will take care of themselves. Anytime you aren't having good runs, you probably know that you're not in good point standing. So definitely kind of on the back of the mind for sure. But more importantly, just trying to get our program righted and up front and in a position to where we can win a race or two and not worry about points.
And obviously crew chief change on the 3 this week. Is it important for them to be running well or better as far as helping anything with your performance?
Yeah, I mean, I think anything for RCR is the strength in having, both teams running up front. So, it seems like there's a comfort factor there with Austin and Justin. And, Justin, I think, has tried to come off the road a couple times for family and whatnot, but he kind of keeps getting pulled back out of the bullpen and put in play. So I respect the hell out of Keith and Justin and Randall and all those guys, Petrie too, that, it's not due to lack of intellect. We certainly have that. There's a lot going on at the shop and things like that where it seems like there's some pretty good minds being put to use on the stuff that we do. It just hasn't correlated to the racetrack yet.
We'll move on to Dustin.
Dustin Long, NBC Sports. Kyle, as a sports fan, I'm guessing you've seen events where maybe late in events they always say that the officials call things a little differently in light of what happened last week at Richmond, what NASCAR said, hey, if this situation happened earlier, maybe it's a different outcome. From an athlete's point of view, how important is it to be able to dictate what you're able to do at the end, as long as it's way out of bounds, as opposed to having officials step in?
I kind of feel like they probably, if it was earlier in the race, they probably would have spent time reviewing it and then calling it and making a penalty and calling a pass through or whatever that is. But since it was the end of the race, they are a lot more prone to let things go when it comes down to the end of the race. We look at bump and runs. We look at dump and runs, right? I mean, a guy flat blatantly takes out another guy and gets to score the win because they're not going to strip that for rough driving or something else. You know what I mean? So I feel like that's kind of their mentality a little bit of just not wanting to be involved in a finish and stripping a win, per se.
Also, I know for the most part the short tracks have been pretty challenging since you've come over to RCR, and I also understand if you knew what the issue was, you wouldn't be facing these challenges. But what are the things that you're hoping or looking for, or kind of high on your radar this weekend? And I think you even talked in the past here, I think, come in with different mindset. Is there any more of a different mindset on how to approach things for the team in what you're doing with this car?
Yeah, I mean, to me, I feel like I know how to get around Martinsville. I've won here before. I feel like my good stretch of races here certainly came from 2013-14 time frame to about 18-19. So we had some good runs. I think we won 2 or 3 races here in that time period. So the short track stuff though has been very miss. We have had like 2 hits, I think. So, it'd be nice to get more on the hit side and to where we have good cars and that we're able to go out there and contend and compete. And so, I think a lot of it is just the reliance on the simulation and what we're being told in that, and making decisions based off of that, what makes you faster or better in the sim, and that is not transferring to the racetrack. So we've got to go about it a different way.
We're going to go to Owen in the second row in the middle.
Owen Johnson, CupScene.com. You've been critical of the new short track package this year. Has it changed the racing at all from your perspective? And do you expect any bigger changes here at the shortest track yet for the package?
I didn't think we could make it worse, but by golly, we did. For me, anyways, like maybe it's just because we don't have it quite figured out like others do, but I cannot follow anybody in front of me whatsoever. It doesn't matter if I'm in the bottom lane, the middle lane, the top lane. If there is a car in front of me, I am terrible, really bad. I will say the only positive to it is that you can slide the back of the car around a little bit more and not crash. But the front ends are just ungodly, not working.
What would you like to see NASCAR do in terms of development direction?
It doesn't matter because they're not going to do it, so it don't matter. I'm not going to paint myself in a bad spot to get in trouble.
With that, we'll go to Jermaine.
Jermaine Farrell, WFXR in Roanoke. Thank you so much, Kyle, for your time. 2-part question. Obviously, the last couple of years, they made the spring race 400 laps versus the usual 5. Talk about the strategy of racing 400 laps here versus 500. And then the second part, obviously, next week we have Texas coming up. Your thoughts, feels about racing at the Texas Motor Speedway next week?
Yeah, 400, 500, it's still a long time. So to me, it doesn't seem like it's that much different, honestly. Stage lengths are a little different. How you would kind of strategize the race might be a little bit different, but honestly, to me, it's not that much different. So, and I think that's it for here. So going into next week for Texas, we were pretty good there last year. We had a decent car. We were, coming up through the field, getting into the top 3. We pitted or we stayed out. I think we stayed out on a stop, and I ran a couple laps in the spray, felt like it hurt my tires a little bit, and then I was crashed a couple laps later. So definitely learned from that. Don't do that. But all around, felt like if we can go back there and repeat with a similar car as we had last time, then I feel like we're a contender and we can put ourselves in position for a win there.
Thanks.
Yep.
We're going to go to Zach and then Lee and then finish on the side.
Zach Sternio, NASCAR.com. Kyle, kind of piggybacking off of Dustin's question earlier, Martinsville specifically has been tough in this next-gen era for you. Excuse me. But I know you've also talked about just trying to find the feel that works for you in this next-gen car. Do you feel any closer to that from the grand scheme of things as this season continues and progresses?
Not as much, no. I feel like one of the biggest things that we were able to work on, with the old car was a little figuring out ways of being able to develop some rear grip in different ways, and the sustainability of the rear tires for a long run. And I feel like that's where our strength here really came in, was my ability of being able to keep the rear tires under the car and go the long distance. Myself, Denny, and Truex, the things that we would learn with each other in our meetings really translated to the racetrack. But since we've gone to the new car, everything's more similar. You don't have your play box and your tool set is way limited on what you can do in order to find that rear grip, and I have not been able to find that rear grip for here. I can probably be fast for 20 or 25 laps maybe, and then we start throwing the anchor out and the backup light comes on. So that's been my thing, is just finding how to manage the rear tires and keep those under us.
We'll go to Lee next.
Lee Spencer, CatchFence.com, SiriusXM NASCAR Radio. Joey Logano said on the network this week that when a pit crew is used to winning, when they're used to being a top 5 car, it puts them under a different level of pressure than when you're riding 15th, 20th. Do you have to kind of condition your pit crew to get there where you need them to be able to perform on Sundays?
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with that. I feel like sometimes too, just the nature of a driver's name might put added pressure on a team, and because they're looked at a lot more, and they've got eyeballs on them a little bit heavily. The teams that I've had in the past have done phenomenal jobs of living up to the pressure. I remember, I don't know how many times did we go to Homestead and there's that late race caution that comes out for the final pit stop, right? And the guy's got to go and perform under pressure, and you're racing for a championship. So, I've been under that position 5 years in a row. It's been a minute, but it happened. Remember that? It happened. Nobody got it. Okay, moving on. It's tough. I mean, like, I'd look at the 24 bunch when William got over there, right? Like, I think there's different guys there now, but they probably were like, okay, there's a young kid coming in, like, whatever, nobody's going to have any eyeballs on us. But Kyle moving over to RCR, there are certainly more eyeballs on that pit crew and the things that they do. So I think that's my example.
And Texas has generally been a really good track for you prior to the next gen car, and I'm curious, your last two starts there have not been,
I think I've wrecked in every next gen start there, haven't I?
Pretty much.
Thank you.
Sorry, but my question to you is, with being at the new team and what have you, how much direction do you get from General Motors as being a key partner, and how much internally are you, goes into the car? Do you kind of have a roadmap that comes as being a key partner, or is there more individualism that takes place from the team side?
Well, definitely, yes. We're a key partner team with Team Chevy, so we obviously have that toolbox and the things of the sim and everything that goes along with that to compare and work with the other Chevy teams, Trackhouse and HMS. So we do that. We've done that a lot. We've done that about everywhere. I mean, there has been hot places where we've been really good, and we've done it on our own. And then there's been other places where we follow suit with those guys, and we've been good or we've been bad. But the gist of it is to work together and to work as a team, and we have our meetings afterwards where we all kind of talk about the stuff that we fought over the weekend, and what happens after those meetings I think is probably the utmost importance, with the engineers and the crew chiefs and stuff reading through our comments and going back to the setups and figuring out why somebody was particularly good or somebody was particularly bad, and kind of dissecting that stuff and learning what to do, what not to do.
We'll go to the left here.
Win Harold, BTW 21. With the history surrounding Martinsville Speedway, and we are local, what is one of your favorite moments that's ever happened here, and what is one of your favorite things about driving Martinsville?
I'll start with the second question first. I don't know if I have a favorite part of Martinsville. Winning, I guess. That's the fun part when you're going forward on those long runs and guys in front of you are struggling a little bit, and you can get to them and kind of nudge them a little and go and move on and win. But other than that, I would cool moments here. I mean, man, some of that with the Hendrick camp and their wins here and the history that they have here from the tragedy that took place nearby, and then I would say beyond that, further back in history, some of the Earnhardt moments are always entertaining and pretty spectacular with Darrell and those guys. So the way that they would fight for wins here was always kind of intense, and would shine a light on what NASCAR was really made from.